Hey there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 1837, right? 37, yep. That's a lot of days in a row. I think I missed one. Christmas 2019, Christmas Day, or Christmas Eve, I can't remember, one or the other. Had COVID, right before COVID was a thing, crazy. But ever since then, and I've got it right now, I've had this weird cough that's just super intense. Whenever I get a little bit of a bug or a cold, this cough re-emerges, and it's awful. It's embarrassing, it's awful, and in my last video, I hacked at the end and had to cut it short because I couldn't talk. Anyway, today we're talking about, in this year's annual challenge, the Get Your Goals annual challenge, emotions, emotional well-being, emotional related topics for the month of February. And today's was emotional power and emotional energy, and how we can use that to take short-term things that happen to us and make sure that we're doing things and choosing and using our emotional power and our emotional energy, which is really our personal power, in ways that will give us long-term what we want and give us the best result short-term too. We're going to use the SOAP framework in a couple of days and roll that out. I think next week we'll do it, and apply it to an emotional goal that we want to set. And then we're going to automate that and put it in place for our life, for the rest of our life, so that we can continue to move toward what we want on emotional, physical, mentally, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationships, contribution, communication, and a contribution aspect. All the different 9 areas and aspects we're going to talk about 1 month at a time as part of the challenge. And I'm doing something a little different. I started it in February 1st I started it. Today's the 3rd, and I'm doing a little search and then getting a little bit of an article, and I will be perfectly upfront, I'm using Chat GPT to do it, to just give me a couple of paragraphs on the day's topic. Then I'm copying and pasting that and sharing it in a new guide in the Get Up and Go Challenge private group, so that people can access a little bit more information on that. Now, if you want more information on something we're talking about, you can always Google it and research it yourself, but this just gives a general overview of the topic we're talking about and things that you could think about with respect to that topic. And I don't know if I'll go back and do it for January. Maybe I'll go back to each of the January topics and do the same thing, because I think it's really powerful. Plus, it reinforces the learning and the topics that we talked about for me. I don't know that I'll do it for all of the different goal frameworks, because that's where I got those in the first place. I just did a search, what are some of the top goal frameworks, and then I just shared each one of those. And I only did 15 because that's more than enough to get the ideas, and you see ideas and aspects of each of those frameworks repeating themselves, and you pick and you choose and you create the one that works best for you. That's what we get. But I'll play with it for the month. I think I'll commit to myself to play with it for the month of February and see how I like it, and then I can decide if I'm going to do it going forward. And I can always go back, on days that I have more time, and add and fill in and do the same thing for January. But for right now, it's under Guide 17 in the Get Up and Go Challenge private Facebook group. You just have to answer 3 questions to join. I figure if people won't answer 3 questions, then they're not getting into the group, because there are 2020, 2021, 2022, now 2023, all of that content that I created in those years, not all of it, but with respect to challenges, is in the guides of that particular group. So lots of valuable information, lots of me, lots of my face in there, crazy. But if we can't say we're not going to spam, then I'm not going to let you in the group, because that means you're going to spam, and I don't want anybody spamming that group. It's a private, very safe place, and I want to keep it that way. Our idiom for Supersize Your Business to coincide with this was to turn a blind eye. Since I've been blind in my left eye since my early 20s, and legally blind in my right eye now since, I think, 2019, I finally got that diagnosis. I stretched out as long as I could, but I think I had quit driving a year or so before that, because I knew I couldn't see well enough to be driving. And I like this idiom because it speaks to me personally, and it reminds me of all of the things that we see that bother us, but we never do or say anything about. I think about in my businesses and in my professional life, I have this tenacity, and I refuse to turn a blind eye to injustices and things that I see that are wrong in my life with respect to business, work, money, finance, doing the right thing in those situations, in relationships. But in my personal relationships, I turned a blind eye for decades. I want to say well over a decade, but to the messed up stuff in my personal relationship. And finally, following my son cardiac arrest in 2010, I was like, yep, that's it. I deserve better than this. Glad to be here, so I'm not going to take this anymore. So I got divorced. Long story, not worth sharing here, because it's not like I'm the only one that's ever done this or experienced this or put up with things in my personal life that went against what I thought, how I thought the way relationships and marriages should be. So I am as guilty as the next person of turning a blind eye to things I don't want to see, right? And there's things we don't want to see, we don't want to deal with, we don't want to admit to. And I think I was probably a little bit right in that it took 5+ years to break everything apart from that relationship and sever our the divorce part was easy, but the breaking up the assets and the things that we had acquired and built together was much more challenging. I left it to the experts, so I didn't have to stress about it. So turn a blind eye, meaning we don't deal with things that we see that go against our core values and our beliefs, and we don't stand up for injustice as we see it. And how does this impact our businesses? And again, some things are really none of our business. Excuse me, I told you I got that cough. You know, other people's opinion of us, unless they're our ideal customers and clients, their opinion of us and our business and our life and what we're doing, it's none of our business. It doesn't matter what they think. Only we can live our life and know what's right for us. And sometimes we'll put up with a little bit of testing and trial stuff that we think is off, and then all of a sudden we're like, no. We hit that point in the wall where it's like, this is absolutely not for me. Done. And we're done. And once we're done, we're done. I think women more so than men will put up with nonsense until they're like, they'll hit this line in the sand, the wall, and they're like, yep, that's it. I'm not taking it anymore. If somebody doesn't treat you right, we all know intellectually we should say no and go the other direction and get away from them as quickly as possible. But it takes some of us longer than others. All right. If there's anything I can help you with, hit me up. Let me know. Any questions, any burning questions you've got, you just don't know who to ask. I want to be and offer to be that resource for you. Why do I do that? Because most people won't ask. Most people are too scared. And I used to be that way, and I still am sometimes. I think I should be able to figure everything out myself. And if I can't figure it out, then it isn't the right time for me to have that answer. Now, that's a limiting belief, right? It makes me struggle longer with things than I ever would have to. And nowadays, with the internet, and okay, the AIs and the chat GPTs and the Quoras, question and answer sites, there is no reason to struggle with things to the point that you're frozen and you're not moving forward and you're not taking action. Anyway, I digress. Have an awesome day, and I'll, of course, be with you tomorrow.